We're counting down to New Year's Eve when people all over the world are going to be raising a glass to 2023. Our next guest has an inside look at what people are buying and some of the trends to watch in the new year. We want to bring in Liz Paquette, Drizly's head of consumer insights, joining us now. Liz, it's great to have you. We know that New Year's is a huge weekend for your industry. So talk to us just about what people are buying this year and how much they're spending.
Absolutely. So the biggest weekend for our industry, what we're seeing is, on New Year's Eve, champagne is consistently the top seller across the board. But something interesting happening this year is that in the month of December, when we compare year over year, we're actually seeing that Prosecco is experiencing quite significant growth, about a 20% increase in share year over year, while champagne is seeing a 4% decrease. So while we're still anticipating that champagne is going to likely take that top spot for New Year's Eve, we expect some consumers to be turning to Prosecco and some other alternative sparkling wines this year.
And Liz, when we think about some of the hard spirit alternatives that are available, lining up shots, maybe tequila is there in front of us, what are people clamoring for this holiday season?
Absolutely. So, of course, sparkling wines and wine in general is the go-to for New Year's Eve in particular, but don't count out spirits. Consumers do definitely purchase spirits and spirit accompaniments to make cocktails on this holiday. So we see pretty significant increases in liqueurs, cordials, schnapps, as well as what we're seeing this year is pretty significant growth in tequila in particular. And then I would also expect to see lots of consumers buying up ready to drink cocktails as well for the holiday. So if someone's looking for something a little bit easier and not wanting to mix up those cocktails themselves, that's going to be another option for folks as well.
Liz, what about pricing of alcohol? We talk about inflation all the time, how it's certainly been consumers all over the world have been impacted by this. When it comes to alcohol, how much of a price jump have we seen there this year?
Yeah, so in sparkling wine in particular, we've seen a pretty significant bump in champagne. So if we compare this year to 2020 in particular, the average unit price of 750 milliliter bottles of champagne have increased about 25%. And then since this past year, about 6%. So we are seeing some growth there. And it's a little bit softer on the Prosecco side. And that might be in part why consumers are turning to that as an alternative. And then overall, that's unit prices. We are also seeing shifts in the price points that consumers are shopping across both wine and spirits. And what we're starting to see is a little bit of a Goldilocks effect. We're seeing decreases in share for bottles under $10 and over 50 plus. But then increases in that $20 to $30 range for wines and that $30 to $40 range for spirits.
And Liz, your business, Drizly, in the business of alcohol delivery. Any trends you can point out to us that may have occurred over the year? I know weather effects recently probably getting people to opt for that home delivery, but just in general, what trends are you noticing?
Sure. So like I mentioned, from a pricing perspective, we're definitely starting to see some shifts there, and we're anticipating that will carry over into the new year. And as one of the leading beverage alcohol e-commerce shops, we're able to see a lot of interesting stuff from a category perspective as well. So I mentioned a couple in particular. Tequila has been a fast grower this year and these past couple of years in particular. And that is something we anticipate in 2023 as well to continue. Ready to drink cocktails are experiencing a moment just like hard seltzer did a couple of years ago. And then additionally, the non-alcohol category is really starting to accelerate on the platform as well. While it's still a smaller percentage, we're anticipating that this will be a trend that's here to stay for quite some time, and that's across spirits, beer, and wine.
Yeah, Liz, it's interesting. We've been talking a lot about the rise of non-alcoholic drinks, how that is more and more popular, especially with younger generations. Is that consistent with what you're seeing on your platform in terms of demographics? And I guess how big of a jump have you seen there in sales of the non-alcoholic drinks this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran a recent study with our consumer base, and we're finding that millennials and Gen Zers are the ones who are leading trial of non-alcoholic spirits, wine and beer. And we're seeing increases across the board, across beer, across wine and spirits. And in particular, I think over the past 2 years in wine in particular, it's been about a 500% increase in share of sales on the platform. So, this category is really, just getting started, but the sky's kind of the limit there.
And you mentioned hard seltzer a minute ago. Want to ask you about the ready-to-drink category in general. Yes. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, so one of the categories in particular that's leading a big increase in RTDs is consistent with what we're seeing overall with spirits, and that's tequila-based ready-to-drink cocktails. So that's the fastest growing subcategory within RTDs, but we're definitely seeing growth across the board. The number of SKUs available on the platform has increased, something to the effect of 70% of our retail partners have said that ready-to-drink cocktails have dramatically change their stocking strategy in store and will do so permanently. So we're anticipating that we'll see a maturation of this category and that consumers will continue to try and discover new brands, but that again, here we're expecting continued growth.
Liz, give us some tips on people out there who maybe haven't decided what they're going to be drinking on New Year's Eve, if they do in fact decide to partake, because my favorite bottle of wine is a Pinot Noir. It costs like $12 or $13. I'm certainly not the person to be answering this, but what would you say in terms of what you are recommending this year?
Sure, absolutely. So categories wise, I would recommend some of the mainstays. So a good bubbly, popping that open at midnight is always a fun thing to do. And if you're someone who does typically grab a bottle of champagne, maybe this is a year to try an alternative like a Prosecco, like a Cava, which is made in a similar method to what champagne is made in. So that's one option, trying some fun tequila cocktails, RTDs. What I'd say is, if you're someone who is, having some people over, hosting a little bit of something, or even at home with, a significant other, to me, New Year's Eve is a great time for trial because you've got some folks around you. So why not grab a little bit of everything and see what fits your mood that night?
You got to branch out. You got to do it responsibly, though. Liz Paquette, always great to have you, Drizly. Thanks so much for joining us. I think we're all thirsty and ready for a drink at this point.